Ljubljana and the rest of Slovenia are by far one of the most underrated places in the entire world, but there are some things that I wish I had known before visiting, so I'm going to share those with you today. So we're going to talk about some cultural things that you should be aware of, going to give you some money saving tips, going to talk about what area of town you should actually stay in, some of the best day trips because you're going to want to do some of those, and I'm going to tell you my biggest mistake that I see a lot of other tourists make as well. So the first thing that you're probably going to want to know how to do is pronounce it, and it's 4 syllables, Ljubljana. Ljubljana. I was confused at first too, but now you don't have to be. The next thing to know is that Ljubljana actually has so much to offer. Well, yes, you're gonna wanna do some of the day trips. Ljubljana itself has a beautiful castle. It's one of the most charming downtowns I've ever seen. There's some beautiful churches. They've got a river that cuts through the middle. It really is a place that you can walk around and have a great time. So don't sleep on Ljubljana itself. Also note that Ljubljana itself is a really, really clean city. Maybe the cleanest city I've seen in all of Europe. And I think you could say that about Slovenia as a whole. It's a really clean country. So do your part as a tourist and help keep things clean. Next thing to note is this is a great city to carry around some sort of refillable water bottle. They have fountains all over the place and their tap water is some of the best in the entire world. Don't waste money on bottled waters, just have something refillable. Also note that you're not going to have any issues communicating here if you can speak English. We've been back a few times and it always seems like English is kind of the default language, so don't worry about not being able to communicate. But a few more cultural things that you might want to be aware of. Sundays are really, really quiet. Most things are closed, so if you are only going to spend a day or two in Ljubljana, I wouldn't look to book over a Sunday. Maybe treat Sunday as that day tripping day, but also note that tipping culture in Slovenia, it's not really a thing. You can do it. Typically 10% is going to be more than enough, but it is not an expectation that you tip, so keep that in mind. I'll jump into some money saving tips in just a second, but first, 2 quick things that I don't think you should miss out on. The first is the Slovenian cream cake. It's a traditional dessert that you have to try if you're in the area. And the second thing you shouldn't miss out on is a restaurant called Fetish Patisserie. It's right downtown Ljubljana, and when my wife and I were living in Croatia, we would actually leave Croatia, come to Ljubljana just for this place's pizza. I don't know how they do it, but seriously, it's our favorite pizza in the entire world. Definitely something that you shouldn't miss. But let's talk about some of those money saving tips. So this first one has to do with the Ljubljana castle. And while you can pay for it, you don't actually have to, and a lot of tourists don't realize that. So the free section is, in my opinion, just as good as the paid section. Really what you'd be paying for is a slightly better view, but I think you'd be better off saving your money and spending that for a view that I'll talk about later on in this video. Another money saving tip is if you were thinking about paying for a tour of Ljubljana, don't. There's actually a free walking tour every single day that happens at 11 a.m. It leaves right from the center of the city. You don't need to book it in advance. It really is free. I've got no idea how they actually make money, but yeah, I'll leave a link in the description for you to check them out. I'm in no way, shape, or form affiliated, but yeah. Great free resource. Now, I'll tell you about that biggest mistake I made and some of the day trips that you're not gonna wanna miss in just a second, but if you're wondering where you should actually stay in Ljubljana, I'm not gonna overcomplicate things. This one's actually really simple. Anywhere within this circle is gonna be great. And that's because Ljubljana is really, really small. It's a really safe city. And because it's so compact, anywhere in this circle will give you easy access to everything that you're realistically gonna want to see. So stay within that circle and you'll be just fine. By the way, if any of this has been helpful and you want more travel tips from me, I started a newsletter that I send out every single Tuesday with a weekly update about where I'm at because I move to a new country every single month, and I also include the top travel tip of the week. So I'll leave a link in the description if you want to subscribe to that. Now let's talk about day trips because Ljubljana is going to give you great access to so many awesome places, but the first thing that you're going to want to note is that you're probably going to want a rental car for this. That's what I did. I'm typically not somebody who rents a car, but I felt like I had to here and it was definitely the right call. I rented through discovercars.com. I've used them a couple times and always had a pretty good experience. So if you're looking for somebody to check out, I'll leave a link in the description so you can look at them. But I'm going to talk about a few of the places that are a little bit further out first. And those are Venice, Italy. Yeah, Venice, Italy is only a 2.5-hour drive. Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, you're talking like an hour and 45-minute drive from Ljubljana. And then of course you have the Julian Alps, which are just incredible. You have to get over there. It's going to take like 2.5 hours to drive up there from Ljubljana, but well worth the trip. But let's talk about some of those day trips that are going to be a little bit more accessible. And when I say accessible, all within about an hour's drive. The first place that I think is well worth a visit is the Pajama Castle. It's this castle that is literally carved into the side of a mountain. It is insane. It is a beautiful spot to check out. And if you're already over in that area, you're really close to the Poistoina Caves, which is just this unbelievable cave network where you can actually go and take a tour. You go deep underground. It is beautiful. One of the most beautiful things I have ever seen. But a side tip here is make sure that you pack a sweater. I don't care how warm it is above ground, below ground in that cave network, it is freezing. And the third place that is really accessible from Ljubljana is Lake Bled. And I'm sure you've already heard of it, but I have a couple tips around Lake Bled. That castle on Lake Bled, that is a castle that is well worth paying for. Do keep in mind that the castle itself might be a little bit underwhelming, but you're really paying for the views, and I promise those aren't going to disappoint. Second thing to note is that you can actually take a boat ride to the middle island, and I'd highly recommend it. It is just a beautiful lake. There are no motorboats, so it is one of the cleanest lakes I've ever seen. Yes, you can also climb the tower and ring the bell. I think you can skip that. I think the real magic is just being out on the lake and swimming in the water. It is absolutely gorgeous. But let's talk about that biggest mistake that I made, and I see so many other tourists make as well. And that is that big media really likes to talk about the big countries in Europe, and a place like Slovenia and Ljubljana rarely get talked about, so people think that you don't need to spend any time here, and that couldn't be further from the truth. This has to be one of the most underrated places in all of Europe. The people are wonderful, the scenery is spectacular, and the culture is such a fun thing to explore and learn about. So if you want to see some of our adventures there, you can watch them right here. I hope this all was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section down below, and we'll catch you guys next time.